Check 1 2 2. Check 1 2. I think we might be live here. Just giving it a minute to see if it goes live on YouTube. I think so. Oh yeah, I think we're good. All right, we're live, Mr. Marceau. Mr. Marceau, for one of the first times, I don't think it's the first time, but one of the first times ever, you're joining me here on the live stream here on YouTube. What's going on, brother?
I'm doing good, Jason. How are you?
Doing great. So since I gave you the old boot from WrestleRant Radio this week, I figured, like you mentioned to me over the phone a couple of days ago, I typically record SmackDown around this time on Saturdays. You said, why don't I jump on and help you talk about SmackDown and Rampage? And I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working like a dog lately, so I had to go into work on Thursday a little earlier than I like to be.
Ooh.
So, I know, I had to get on the show, so snuck on in this fashion.
Well, it worked out well, too, because I had my buddy John Ritland on. He's a great guy, and we just talked about the NXT releases for a little bit while, just because nothing really much of note else happened on WWE TV this week between NXT and Raw, although I thought NXT was a solid show and I enjoyed it. We talked about it over text a few days ago. And I'm glad we waited until today just because last night was kind of like the newsworthiest, that's not even a word, but like the most newsworthy night of the week so far. Between SmackDown, the debut of Rampage. What were your overall thoughts on the night of wrestling that we had last night for August 13th, 2021?
I thought it was a good night. I think both shows had their good parts. Rampage, not that it was the greatest show, but I feel like it had like old NXT, kind of the 1 hour like slot vibe. I don't know, like it felt like everything kind of was important or like needed to be there. I'm hoping it's not like they're just all hot-shotting these because they're going to be live shows at first, and then when they go to the tape show, it's just going to be like superstars. So it was a good start. I thought it was a good show overall, and we can get into it a little bit later on, but I thought SmackDown was a good show as well. So I think both programs put out a solid show and not too much to nitpick or take apart.
Well, hopefully this continues to be the case going forward. SmackDown is one of the more bearable WWE shows they put out each week, and Rampage, on night one anyway, was a good show, but then again, the first episode of Dark was pretty solid too. So I know, obviously, Rampage, they have a TV deal. It's on TNT or TNT for now before they move to TBS next year. I'm not sure. It really is dependent on how they book this show moving forward and whether it's going to be as much of a priority as it has been for this first week. Will it continue to be a big deal beyond next week? Obviously, we all kind of know what's coming next week with the First Dance episode in Chicago. That kind of told you through the commercial without actually telling you. But what about, we've talked about this before. We don't know the ratings yet. By the time we're done talking here, we'll probably have a better idea of what the overnight viewership was. What are your thoughts on the whole Friday night time slot for AEW? They don't have many other options. They're not going head-to-head with SmackDown. I feel like you might do a good number this week, probably next week, depending on what they advertise from that point forward. But I just feel like the ratings won't be great on Friday nights at 10 p.m. No matter how hot that crowd was last night, and I enjoyed the show, I am a little bit worried about the ratings, after a couple of weeks.
I mean, it's just a tough spot. But, I mean, I think TNT knows going in it's not going to be the easiest spot, and I guess theoretically, usually at that time, 10 to 11 o'clock Eastern time, and it usually is on other channels, just kind of like reruns of movies, so maybe they're just hoping, which, I mean, it shouldn't be hard to do, they should still have, like, even if the ratings aren't, like, tremendous, it'd still kind of be, like, number one on cable, just because how many people are really watching, like, those reruns and just kind of random stuff at 10 o'clock at night. I think TNT clearly knew that they'll probably have the highest viewership, whatever that means, at that point, and I guess it works at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it really is dependent on what else is on TV. And just the time slot itself, I just learned with Dynamite that it's just not ideal. But after last night, I mean, we had 3 matches. The hour breezed by because of what they advertised. I think the hour format is far more bearable than the 2 hour. Not more bearable, because 2 hours is good too. Obviously, you need 2 hours for a show like Dynamite with all the people they have. But I think the 1 hour so far is refreshing. I really hope they don't add a second hour anytime soon, because I thought for a 1 hour show, and we don't really have a 1 hour wrestling show anymore, because NXT moved up to 2 hours, Raw and SmackDown are 2-3 hours each. All the other shows, even Impact, is 2 hours. So I thought the return of the 1 hour format was very refreshing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I said, it kind of gave me a early NXT vibes on the network, just an hour show. Felt like everything was there. There wasn't any filler in there. Everything made sense. They had some good plugs in there. Just didn't seem like it overstayed its welcome. Not that 2-hour ones do, but especially watching SmackDown and watching this compared to Raw, it just makes Raw even look like more of a chore than it already is.
Yeah, definitely a chore is the right word to use to describe it. But, we're talking about Dynamite, or we're rather talking about Rampage. Let's get right into it. For August 13, 2021, SmackDown obviously aired first. I was planning about talking about that first. But let's get right into Rampage, because it was a shorter show, a lot less to talk about. One thing I do got to get out of the way real quickly, though, I enjoyed the show overall. I thought it was a good, startup episode, premiere. Everything went well. The matches were what they should be. I enjoyed them, whatever. The commentary team, dude. Jericho, they got to take off the booth. I enjoyed Mark Henry. I thought he did a good job. Excalibur and Taz were what they were, and I enjoyed Taz. But Jericho is completely pointless out there, and he spoke more than anyone else, but he was almost unbearable to listen to for the majority of the show.
I'm glad that you let us off, because I was going to say Chris Jericho needs to get the boot out the announce team. I've never, right when the pandemic started, it was him and Tony on those shows, he was bearable. He didn't I feel like he's still playing up this persona, and he just screams and screeches, and
yeah,
he just talks, like you said, way too much. And I felt like, I'm not the biggest Excalibur fan, but I feel like him and Taz kind of got drowned out by Jericho, because Jericho was just screaming and jumping in and kind of just losing the flow, and they just he took the lead on almost everything. And I thought Mark Henry was fine, but I think they need to relax on Jericho. Him screeching and screaming over the play-by-play guys is just not good television.
No, it's not good at all. It was so, I don't know. It just got to a point where it was just super unbearable. And, I don't know, when was it? When they first started having him on commentary, maybe in early 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, he wasn't that bad. And I was on when we first started talking about Dynamite during the pandemic, I enjoyed it. I defended Jericho on commentary. But so far, it's just, at least recently, has not been great at all. And I thought last night was a very big indicator that I just was not a fan of him being on commentary whatsoever. So you would have to hope that it's going to be... I don't even think a 3-man booth is necessary. I like that how SmackDown has a 2-man booth with Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. I feel like with every added hour... if it's a 7-hour show, you shouldn't have 7 people on the booth. You should kind of rotate people in and out. What'd you say?
I just laugh when he said a 7-hour show. They shouldn't have 7 commentators.
Yeah, it's WWE. They might do that, but I think for each added hour, having an extra person makes sense. So I think having a 3-hour show, 3 people makes sense. As much as I don't give a fuck about Byron Saxton, having 3 people on Raw makes sense. SmackDown, McAfee, Cole for a 2-hour show makes sense. For a 1-hour show, again, I don't think you need... my logic is kind of off a little bit, because that was a 2-hour show when I said 2 people. This is a 1-hour show. We don't need a Joey Styles situation where it's 1 person, they're flying solo. But I don't really think they need any more than 2 or 3 people, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate if it was just Taz and Mark Henry, or Alex Excalibur and Mark Henry. I just think Jericho is clearly the one that just sticks out. Like I said, I thought he was fine at the beginning of the pandemic, but last night and his recent appearances have just been unbearable.
Oh my god, he's got to tone it the fuck down. Holy shit. Yeah, that was very distracting. But putting aside the Jericho commentary, we had Christian Cage vying for the Impact World Championship against the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega at the start of the show last night, which I thought was a very good match as expected. And, for all this talk, including from ourselves about, Christian being an underwhelming choice for Omega's all-out opponent, as I've said before, it doesn't really matter who it is. It could be Christian, it could be Jungle Boy, it could honestly be really anyone. I feel like if it was... we would probably shit on Orange Cassidy more than others, just because I really don't feel like he should be contending for a world championship. But even if it was Pac again, or... I don't know, anyone else from the AEW roster, if they somehow explain Cody getting a title shot, anyone but Hangman will absolutely feel underwhelming, because they were building to Hangman the entire summer, and they just kind of jerked it away from us at the last minute, probably due to personal reasons for Hangman. I had heard that he was on, paternity leave and whatever, so that would make sense. If so, not really our business to speculate beyond that. But anyway, still, Hangman's not here. We have Christian in the spot instead. We got the match last night. They did have commercials, which kind of hurt the flow a little bit, but overall, I thought it was a great match. Christian wins following a kill switch on the chair, following interference from the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express, which I wasn't overly fond of myself. I hate the interference. I know you do too. You hate the fucking Elite shit. I totally understand that. I didn't like the fact they got involved last night, but I assume they did that to protect Omega in defeat. It was the first singles match that he's lost in a long, long time, like a year or two. So it needed to be a big deal, and it was, and they're probably saving the clean finish for the pay-per-view in a couple of weeks. Because at this point, I don't think they're not doing the match at this point. I think we're getting the rematch at All Out. But if this was any indication, that should be a great match too. So what were your thoughts, Mr. Marceau, on Christian Cage becoming the new Impact World Champion against Kenny Omega?
That was a good match. I wouldn't go as far as great. I like you said, I hate the picture-in-picture. It kind of like breaks up the flow and just kind of ruins the vibes. That's the one thing with NXT I haven't liked lately with the whole commercials when it used to just all be on the network. But that was a good match. Like you said, the interference is never my biggest fan. Christian winning, I mean, I was pretty surprised. Yeah, he finally lost. It's a huge deal, but I kind of wish that his first loss was to Hangman. I feel like it make it a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the first one to beat him clean. Yeah, he lost. Like he had the chair and lost, but if he loses now, and then I guess he's defending the AAA championship against Andrade soon. So if he loses that, and then it's like it doesn't really look like that big of a deal. And then he's just one champion now, and then Hangman beats him. But that was a good match. He was more serious than he usually is, so Omega was more bearable here until the Bucks came out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was good for Christian. They really done a lot with him, so kind of giving him a championship or making him seem more important. I mean, he's a former WWE guy that has name value, so putting a title on him makes it a bigger deal. So good for him. I like the alliance with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I wonder where I'll go from here, but it was a good start for the show.
Yeah, I thought it was a great moment. He wasn't booed, for beating Omega, and Hangman wasn't there or whatever. So I thought that might, it's not Hangman, so I figured I was interested to see how would they, take to Christian and whatever, and who knows if Chicago will be as kind to him because they really want Paige in that spot and not Christian. But I think he'll be probably cheered, knowing the AEW fan base. That's just kind of how it is. They kind of cheer who they're supposed to cheer and boo who they're supposed to boo for the most part. And I love Christian. It's not a matter of I don't want to see him do well, but it really should have been. I agree. I think it should have been Paige being the first one to beat Omega for any championship. But it looks like at this point he lost the Impact World title tonight. I believe is AAA Triple Mania. So where he's facing Andrade for the Mega Championship, probably losing that to Andrade as well. Do you figure that the AEW World Championship at this point is going to be the last title that he holds, that he's going to be losing probably to Paige at some point down the road?
Yeah, like I said, I think I saw something about him facing Andrade tonight or tomorrow. I assume he'll lose there. And then obviously the last one would be AEW, lose it to hopefully Hangman. I don't really love that. Like you said before, I wish he had lost to Hangman. It was the first time he lost. And then he kind of spiraled out of control for him. Then he lost the Impact Championship. Then he lost the other one. So he was kind of like a gracious fall. Like he lost once, and then just kind of kept tripping over his feet and really that could have been a good story to tell. Like, oh, he lost the AEW champion. I'm still Impact and AAA Mania champion. Then he loses one of them. Now, oh, I still got this, and then lose another one. And it can kind of I don't know. I think a better story could have been told there for him at least. But yeah, if he loses tonight, then obviously the AEW championship would be the last one. But I still kind of selfishly wish Hangman was the first one to beat him.
I mean, I don't know if you can interpret it this way, but it feels like Paige is kind of getting the scraps a little bit, in that he's beating people. He's beating Omega after he's already been beaten twice.
Exactly. That's why I kind of wish he was the first one to beat him. Even if he doesn't lose clean against him, if he loses again tomorrow when he's facing Andrade, not clean, but I don't know, he's already lost twice. I don't care if you lose clean or you got cheated out of it, you still lost at the end of the day. So I kind of wish Hangman beat him first, and then he kind of lost those other championships, but it seems that they're going to do the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Christian is losing at All Out, so there's really no worry there, I wouldn't think. But, yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was weird, too. They didn't have an Impact person be the one to beat Omega for the championship. And obviously someone from Impact will probably beat Christian for the championship at some point. I don't know. I just feel like they built up Omega and this whole belt collector thing for so long. You would think, oh, he's like this traitor. He's taking her title. That the title would go back to Impact from someone like a Moose or, someone else on their roster. and not someone that's already in AEW. So I thought that was a little interesting. But again, it was a great moment. It's cool to see Christian win a world championship for literally like the first time in a decade. So I like that. But yeah, good match. We'll see a rematch at All Out. Obviously, Omega will win there, but the story will be interesting to follow from that point forward. With the AEW TNT Championship defended as well, Miro defending against Fuego del Sol. Your thoughts in the match went all of 2 minutes before we found out afterward via Sammy Guevara that Fuego del Sol is indeed all elite, earning a contract via Tony Khan.
The match was fine for what it was. Like I said, it was like a 2 minute, like almost underdog win, and then Miro beat him. I mean, it's fine for what it was. Don't really like the whole point of the match is if he won, he would have got a contract. Then he lost, and they still gave him one anyways. Like a nice little bait and switch there, but yeah, I mean, it was what it was. Miro won, and I mean, he doesn't really have any serious contenders right now, so I'm interested to see what happens from here.
Any ideas on who could be next to challenge for the championship at All Out?
It's a tough one. I feel like we're going to get Cage and Starks probably somewhere down the line, so it won't be him.
Could it be Sammy?
You could do Sammy, I guess. I just feel like they haven't really built it up enough to get to that point, but I think it's possible.
I think the biggest issue with what you just said, I completely agree with that. If you look at All Out, they haven't really, I mean, we talked about this over text, but isn't it a little bit weird when we have the pay-per-view in like 3 weeks and we don't know a majority of the card that we're getting? I mean, isn't that a little bit weird?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues is they have hot-shotted a lot lately for these like new shows, and on Dynamite they kind of keep it more relevant and seem like it's more must-see, and I feel like they kind of have burned through a lot of stuff lately that whatever we're going to get might be like a rematch or something we've already seen or something that doesn't seem as important, unfortunately. Like this will be Omega and Cage 2, and obviously we haven't heard anything else announced. I think I saw online that there's going to be a casino battle royale for the women. They need to really stop doing those, but besides that, we haven't really heard anything official. It doesn't seem like the Young Bucks are facing Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy on Wednesday. I don't think they'll lose there. I just don't think anyone really they don't really have a clear cut challengers right now. I feel like we were kind of hoping it was going to be Proud and Powerful maybe at that Arthur Ashe show, but they're still kind of teasing them in FTR still, even with Cash getting injured. So not really sure. Britt Baker won last night. I just feel like there's a lot of uncertainty right now.
Yeah, I'm curious if like they have a set plan for the pay-per-view and we're just not seeing it yet due to what we're seeing on TV, or if they just genuinely don't know what we're getting at the pay-per-view and they're kind of figuring it out as they go along. I would think it's the former because they've been, I don't know, AEW has a pretty good track record so far of, knowing in advance what the pay-per-views will look like. But it reminds me a lot of some of the other pay-per-views they were doing about a year ago, even Revolution, where they were coming up with matches for these shows at like the literal last minute and didn't exactly make those pay-per-views feel must-see. I enjoyed Double or Nothing so much because, at least back in May, because a lot of those matches were built up in advance. Aside from Omega, Pac, and Cassidy, that was like the only exception for the most part. But still, we'll see where they go with it. I'll be there at All Out, so I'm hoping we get a good show. But I really hope that for all these good shows they've been doing with Dynamite and even Rampage now, next week with The First Dance, that they're not, neglecting their biggest pay-per-view coming up in a couple of weeks. Speaking of The First Dance, we got the commercial with Darby Allin, and they mentioned the whole Best in the World line. I mean, it's all but confirmed we're getting Punk next week, right?
I mean, if Punk doesn't show up next week, the seats will be burned. I call it out.
Chicago will be burned down to the ground for like the second time.
The United Center will be in shambles if he doesn't show up.
Yeah,
and I don't blame him either.
Yeah. Well, you want. I mean, it's not in the Allstate Arena; it's in the United Center. But remember our great time at Money in the Bank 2018 in the hot ass Allstate Arena with no AC.
Realistically, they should burn the Allstate Arena down and put AC in there. Oh my goodness, that was honestly probably one of the worst environmental experiences I've had at a wrestling show.
Wow.
I was sweating like I was in a sauna.
Hell in the Cell 2016 was not a great show, but even that was better in terms of comfortability compared to Money in the Bank 2018.
I mean, we kind of should have figured Allstate Arena's like in a cow pasture. We should have kind of figured out it probably wasn't going to be that nice.
Yeah, a lot of wrestling fans, sitting next to each other. Can't say I'm too surprised, but Still, I like the Allstate Arena, but yeah, when we went there, it was like, holy shit, this place is fucking hot, and they don't have any AC. And if they do, it wasn't on, because it was not comfortable at all. Holy shit. Main event, Britt Baker, Red Velvet, AEW Women's World Championship. Obviously, Baker won. Pittsburgh crowd was very hot for her. She was basically the babyface here. Velvet, I thought, did a good job of playing the heel. I'm not a big Red Velvet fan, but she did what she could, probably her best match to date, which isn't saying much. But the match served its purpose, gave Baker a win. Afterward, Chris Statlander comes out, makes the save for Velvet. She gets booed despite being a babyface. I mean, we probably should have figured that. And then a hooded figure comes in, attacks Statlander. Come to find out, it is Jamie Hayter, a name I've heard before. I honestly know nothing about her aside from the fact that she's a UK women's wrestler. And AEW, apparently, according to Excalibur, had used her. I mean, I looked it up, and he's right. AEW used her in some of the first few Dynamite shows. And it wasn't a case of like, oh, they were about to sign her before the pandemic. Maybe they were, but like, she was on Dynamite back in like October of 2019. Shit is, stuff didn't go to shit until like early 2020. So I'm not sure if they were going to sign her then. I have no idea. But, Baker had said recently she needs backup. And I guess Jamie Hayter is going to be that backup. So what are your thoughts on the match itself, Mr. Marceau, between Britt Baker and Red Velvet and the chaos that we got afterward?
I thought the match was fine. I love Britt Baker. This might be a hot I honestly think she needs a lot of more work in the ring. I think she's good. I think she's got the character down, but I don't know. Like last night, she's a veteran. She's supposed to lead the match. Kind of felt like she was kind of a little bit behind at points. Red Velvet kind of seemed like she was ready and kind of a little off there. I like Britt Baker. I think she does need more work. They only do 1-2 shows a week. I think she could use a little bit more. I think she's great at the character, but I don't know, the match really didn't feel like it got to the point last night that it felt like a big deal. Like, yeah, the crowd was, it was in her hometown. She had all the Pittsburgh garb on. The crowd was eating it up. So, she could have wrestled a broomstick and they would have went crazy. So, the crowd alone, they were loving it, but this wasn't the greatest match. I actually really like Red Velvet. I think she has a lot of potential. I love her look. She needs a lot more work, too, but that was fine. I think, like I said, I like Britt Baker, but she just still needs a lot more work, I think, just to kind of break out to be like a good women's wrestler all around. I think she's got the character down. Just the in-ring stuff needs a little bit more polishing, but it was fine for what it was. Not the greatest main event of all time. And then the aftermath, not a big Statlander guy, but it is what it is. I guess that's the direction we're going now. And then that woman that attacked her, I honestly had no idea who it was. And then obviously we got the explanation. I saw that she worked like a few of the first Dynamite taping or shows in 2019, but besides that, I haven't heard of her. Thought Mel was coming back, honestly.
You thought who was coming back?
Mel.
Oh my God! Don't bring up Mel. Don't give him any ideas. Holy shit! I think she got released because I think her profile on the website is no longer there. So I think they finally realized that she was still under contract and gave her the boot because they haven't used her and she's terrible. But yeah. So with the aftermath, I completely agree on the match itself. Baker still needs more work in the ring. I totally agree with that. The Jamie Hayter thing, it's cool they had a fresh face debut at the end of the show. No one knew who the fuck it was, and even the only reason I was like, the only reason I even recognized her was because Excalibur said something. If they didn't call her by her name, say for example, I'm sitting there in the audience and I don't hear the commentary, I would have had no idea who the hell that was. And I feel like, as far as an ending of a show goes for your first ever Rampage show, kind of felt a little bit flat. The match wasn't great and it served its purpose. Baker was super over. But we get this fresh face and no one knows who the fuck she is. I honestly think in retrospect they probably should have swapped this with the opener and put Omega and Christian on last. Yeah,
I completely agree. I thought the match was fine, whatever. Felt very flat to finish. She literally put the lockjaw on and Red Velvet tapped a second after she put it on. And then the whole aftermatch was kind of sloppy. Like you said, if I was in the crowd, no idea who this Jamie Hayter woman was. And just kind of fell flat in the first ending of Rampage. I think the crowd would have went nuts. Could have started off with that, and then the ending with Christian winning. I feel like the place would have thrown babies at that point. But I guess they just thought Britt being in the main event was the right thing by her. She's been probably one of the most over people in the company this whole year. So just kind of a nice nod to her. I will say one thing prior to the match. I do like the interview style that they did with Mark Henry and Red Velvet and her, kind of like the side-by-side camera thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like, it felt like more of a sports presentation, which they promised there was going to be sports-based wrestling. So
it is sports-based
wrestling.
wrestling.
Maybe we'll get more of that. Yeah. Maybe we'll get more of that, but I honestly, that was probably my favorite part of, like, that whole match. I thought the whole side-by-side with Mark Henry in the middle was, like, a great little, like, a pre-match, like, interview kind of promo kind of thing. I thought it was pretty neat. They need to do that more, though.
Yeah, I think, Main Event used to do that when they first started the show and they quickly gave up on it. But when Main Event first started, like 10 years ago, they had interviewed the talent beforehand. They interviewed them afterward. And that's what they did with Christian, too. They interviewed him after his win backstage. Not that Dynamite doesn't do that. But I think kind of adding any elements that are different from, Dynamite, making it a different show, giving it a different feel, different voices, obviously, on commentary, stuff like that, like you had mentioned with the interview segment, I think is a positive. You don't want to make it feel like Dynamite 2.0. And I enjoy Dynamite most weeks, but you don't want to make it just an extension of Dynamite. You want to give it its own feel. Maybe a different set. It was the exact same set from what I understand from Wednesday, so maybe at some point they can spend some money getting a new set. And I realize it was the same city, too. They probably just left it up, but, we'll see how much they actually change it moving forward. Quick note here, Alexis actually said she's listening live. She put it in the chat. She said, "Hi, guys, I'm here, leaving work, and I had this on in the background." So Alexis says, "Hi, Mr. Marceau."
Hi, Alexis. Go to Home Depot.
So any thoughts overall on the premiere episode of Rampage for August 13th, 2021 that we didn't already mention?
Well, like I said, I thought it was a decent show. I thought it was a good start, and kind of the middle was what it needed to be, and the main event kind of fell flat. But for the first episode, I thought it was a good one. And like I said, the ratings, I don't think they really care, honestly. The slot's not the greatest, so I think they know the ratings aren't going to be amazing, but at least the first, like this week, was kind of highly touted up, and they had a couple big matches, and then next week, obviously, what they're rumoring, I'm interested more to see what happens in the coming months of how it's going to be. I think they're going to start taping it and airing it Friday. I'm pretty sure I heard that, so maybe that can kind of be its downfall, unfortunately, if they're going to tape it. Obviously, with the whole day when SmackDown was taped, with all the spoilers coming out, it kind of did ruin it a little bit, but we'll see. I think it was a good first start, but I hope they're not just hot-shotting, like, just like Main Event and Superstars, like, Undertaker was on, like, Triple H was on it, and then all of a sudden it was just, like, all these underneath people that no one cared about, so I'm hoping even if they do that, at least have some kind of focus, like, building women up, or building some underneath guys up, like, use the platform for the right reason. I think that's one of the things NXT has suffered in lately. It's been more of a indie brand than a developmental brand. I think that's why all these people are getting released, because it's kind of like a third indie brand, and they haven't really built any new stars up. So I kind of think that they should use Rampage as a building block. It's on TV, it's not YouTube, and kind of help maybe more video packages and help build people that aren't on Dynamite up more.
Yeah, hopefully. I think if they find a healthy mix of star power and people that need the exposure and experience, someone like a Scorpio Sky, in my opinion, someone like him, who I think is very good, doesn't really get any exposure for the most part on Dynamite. I know he was involved in the whole Darby Allin Sting, Ethan Page storyline recently, but as far as like a single spotlight, he might get that on a Rampage, or Hikaru Shida. I mean, God forbid, where the hell has she been the last 6 months since she dropped the championship? Maybe not 6 months, but she dropped the belt 3 months ago, and we haven't seen her since, at least in any major AEW show. She's been on Dark and whatever. As long as it doesn't become Dark 2.0, then I think it could be a very fun show. And like you said, the tape nature of it, I don't love. Spoilers being out definitely will hurt the ratings, but, it is what it is. Hopefully they can maintain the momentum and continue to put on good shows, but I think we know for a fact that next week, although they haven't advertised anything, is going to be a big show for one person alone. So let's transition over to SmackDown, Mr. Marceau, from the same night earlier on in the evening, August 13th, 2021. Kicking off with John Cena and Roman Reigns. War of words here, very reminiscent of their promo battles from back in 2017. What were your thoughts on this?
I thought it was good. It did run a little long. Kind of like a 30-minute segment, but, they also Cena talked a little bit, and then Roman, came out, went to commercial, then he was coming back out of the entrance. But I thought it was good. Cena's it was kind of like older Cena. I thought Roman stuff, even though it wasn't as long, it kind of hit better. Like the Nikki Bella joke, it tickled me pretty well.
That was
but Reigns, Reigns is just a star. He's got everything now. Heyman's great with him. Just the whole presentation's amazing. The facials, he's just in his prime right now. I think he knows what he's doing. Heyman's always a great little kind of, I bet you Heyman's whispering in his ear a little bit, telling him what to do, how to look, how to act, and when he comes out, it's just like you just see a star every time, and just the way he carries himself. I thought he was great here. He didn't talk too much, which isn't his strong suit, but what he did say was good, and felt like he meant it, and it was authentic, and it wasn't written for him. It was a good segment, and I think it was a good way to build this matchup even more. I really don't think it really needs a build. I mean, it's John Cena versus Roman Reigns. I mean, I saw a report that they're like, oh, we need to build it up more, but like it's already built. It's like a big dream match. I mean, come on. I mean, you don't need bad blood or anything. I just compared to like this is just SmackDown. I said this before. SmackDown's matches compared to Raw matches look like night and day, and I think this was a great start to the show, and it was a good segment, and it was needed what it needed to be.
Yeah, I agree. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and this is what I was hoping we would get from the two guys going into the build for this match. I don't think we really got this a whole lot in the last couple of weeks. We saw them kind of go at it verbally about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago whenever Cena first came back. They got away from it for a little while. John Cena was not on the show last week for whatever fucking reason. He was there, but they didn't have him there, and they were doing, I don't know, I guess they're probably setting up Roman and Finn Balor for after SummerSlam, which is fine. I'm all for that. I think that's great, but it kind of came at the expense of the Cena feud, and the whole contract signing I thought was fucking dumb. So at least they're kind of back on track now. The pay-per-view's next week, and the match does indeed sell itself. But I wanted to see more interactions like this. You don't have Cena a whole lot. We're not going to have a whole lot of Cena before he leaves again in a couple of weeks. So I think the fact that we're getting him here is huge. And the fact they're actually utilizing him to build up his match with Roman Reigns, I think is great. So I enjoyed both their promos. You know, they went a little bit too insider, but you know, I don't like that stuff. I don't like the whole inside baseball shit. AEW does it a lot. Impact used to do it sometimes. You know, it is what it is, but overall I enjoyed the promos. And I thought I did a good job of setting the stage for that SummerSlam clash next weekend. Our first actual match in the show saw King Nakamura, Shinsuke, whatever the fuck you want to call him, knocking off Apollo Crews to win the Intercontinental Championship, his second title, his second Intercontinental Championship, that is, for the first time in a year and a half since he's held the championship last. But the match was good, and I will say this, we were talking before we went live here about the whole King Nakamura thing. I don't love the King Nakamura thing, just let him be Shinsuke, and hopefully it won't be too long if they do another King of the Ring tournament soon, that King Nakamura is indeed King Nakamura. But I will say this, dude, he has been one of the biggest beneficiaries with people being back. These crowds are going super hot for Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, this is the loudest I've ever heard people for Nakamura, probably since he was last a babyface 3 years ago. And obviously they're not going to be white hot for the guy when he was a heel, but he just wasn't booked as well. No one gave a fuck. He was like a mid-card guy at best. Now he's got to be considered an upper mid-card guy between winning the King of the Ring crown from Corbin and now being the new Intercontinental Champion for whatever the hell that's worth. But, you know, I like the match. And, you know, the outcome, I was a little surprised to see Nakamura win before SummerSlam. I was thinking, why not just save it for the pay-per-view? But, you know, you can do cool stuff on TV, too. I understand that. Alexis said that as well, so I totally get that. But your thoughts on the new Intercontinental Champion King Nakamura and the match itself?
I'm excited for Shinsuke. I'm not calling him by that stupid name, so he's Shinsuke Nakamura.
Well,
I'm excited for him.
You don't want to call him King... what was they call him? Kingsuke or something?
Stupid. The whole King stuff, we discussed this. I'm so over it. Once Corbin lost it, should have moved on. The whole King stuff, it's just silly and hokey and WWE dumbness. So, Shinsuke, great win here. I was kind of surprised why I wasn't, because they kind of gave Apollo the jobber entrance, like he didn't get an entrance on TV. And then once Boogs and Aziz got thrown out, I was like, oh, maybe Shinsuke can win here, and then he won. Crowd went nuts. Boogs, a little over the top for my liking, but I kind of like his guitar playing, so I guess that works out. And McAfee's amazing, so Shinsuke winning here was good, and like you said, I kind of like that he won on SmackDown, just because it kind of, like I said, gives it, like, oh, anything can happen feel. When they always retain on SmackDown and then they lose at the pay-per-view, it kind of just, So, I didn't hate it. Shinsuke winning was big, and hopefully they can drop the King stuff.
Have they already given up on Apollo Crews? Because I feel like he got off to a hot start. I was thoroughly enjoying the whole Apollo Crews character, and I mean, I still am, but, like, we haven't heard from him in months. You know, he was Intercontinental Champion for a little over 4 months since WrestleMania. You would never fucking know it because we haven't had... I mean, he hasn't defended the championship since May. He hasn't won a fucking match since May when he defended the belt against Kevin Owens. And I don't know, I just feel like even at the end of the Thunderdome era, coming back to fans, they haven't given this guy a fair shot at all. And, you know, for a character they really went all in with there, and I thought I think the accent is still stupid, but everything else about the character is great. It just feels like they already gave up on it, which is why they took the belt off of him so quickly.
Yeah, I feel like they're more like over the top or more high on Aziz, unfortunately. That's all they talked about. They kept putting the camera on him more than they talked about Apollo, who was in the match. I mean, the whole accent, like you said, is so dumb. It's at least if you're going to do it right, like have him have the accent and lose it. But having no accent, all of a sudden he's had this, like, he's been in the company for like 5 years, all of a sudden he has this thick Nigerian accent now. Like, it screams like one-man gang back in the 80s. So just like, oh, I have native roots or roots in Nigeria, so I have this thick accent. I have this guy dressed up like an army militia, like, who's just on Raw in a wife beater. I mean, it just makes no sense.
Do you think they might... I feel like they might be breaking him and Cruz up, and they might be just pushing Aziz now. I mean, they might say, hey, fuck Apollo Cruz, let's just push Commander Aziz.
At that point, you might as well call him Davakato again.
No, call him Babatunde.
Guys had more name changes in like 2 years than anyone else I know.
Guys had more name changes since the fucking Godfather back in the 90s. Paul White, he was the Good Father, or not Paul White, what was it? His name is Charles Wright is his actual name, but he was Papa Shango, he was the Good Father, he was Kama. He's like that character. Yeah, he had a lot of characters. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. No, I thought the match was good. I'm interested to see what the future holds for Cruz. Because, again, I've liked the heel character. I really think he's knocked it out of the park for a guy they fucking slept on for 5 years and did absolutely nothing with. I mean, he was a guy that we've said forever they called up way too soon from NXT, had nothing for him. And part of it, not that it's his fault, but, like, he just can't talk all that well, or at least he didn't as a babyface, and he just felt generic. But they never really gave him much of anything to do, and now they have, and they just took the belt away from him as quickly as he wanted, so... And then going into WrestleMania, he also lost at the championship like fucking 10 times, so... I don't know, it just really feels like they never really fully committed to the Apollo Crews character, and they just kind of gave up on it after a while, but we'll see what the future holds for him. The Profits back in action again this week. They beat Rude and Ziggler last week. This week they knocked off the Alpha Academy. Kind of got the revenge. I was surprised that they gave the heels their comeuppance so soon. I thought they might drag this out for a little bit longer, but... No, I mean, they got a couple minutes here. They had a little match decent little match while it lasted, but Profits win clean, and it's probably on to the tag titles next for them, I would imagine.
Yeah, I was a little shocked they won clean here. I like the Alpha Academy. I think they have a lot of potential. I like Otis in this more serious role as a grappler shooter with Gable. I myself am a little surprised that they won here, but I don't know, maybe we could do just a match at SummerSlam. I think they have a good match at SummerSlam, just kind of blow it off there. But, yeah, I like Alpha Academy. I like Street Profits, but I feel like we've already been there, done that with them. I feel like Alpha Academy should be more of a focus than them right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, so if we're getting the SmackDown Tag Team titles defended at SummerSlam, Mysterios versus Usos, the rematch, do you think the Usos win and then we're going to get Usos Street Profits, or do you think the Mysterios get the belts back? And if that's the case, then they should have had the Alpha Academy win here. Yeah,
I think the Usos will retain.
Yeah, so probably do Profits and, Usos right after that. But, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. They have a couple of good teams there, but I think we can agree they need more teams in the mix, right?
Yeah, I think they have a few good teams, so I would kind of build on what they have now. I'm not the biggest fan of Ziggler and Roode, but they're in like a veteran team that's capable, and then you have the Usos, Mysterios, Alpha Academy, Street Profits. So you have a good, compared to Raw, they have a decent amount of teams right now, so I would just work on what you have now and maybe build a couple more teams up. But I like the SmackDown Tag Team division. They have like five to four teams that are pretty well known. The crowd's kind of into them. Interesting, new veterans. It's kind of a mixed bag that I like right now.
What if you throw Cruz and Aziz into the mix?
I guess.
I would give him something to do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it would be like Omos and AJ Styles kind of.
Yeah, it would.
Which,
yeah. No, that makes sense. I could definitely. I mean, it is the exact same thing, so I could totally see that. Seth Rollins addressing Edge on the show. I've liked all the promo battles that we've gotten between these two so far. I think the crowd was a little disappointed they didn't get Edge on the show, but I thought Rollins' promo was great. I've loved this feud so far. I think both guys have fucking killed it, and I'm really looking forward to the match. So, your thoughts on Rollins addressing Edge on this show, Mr. Marceau?
I thought it was good. I thought it was what it needed to be. I like how he's like basically like the vignette package that they had of him and Edge, and basically saying how he's better than Edge and great stuff like that. But this feels like an old school like WrestleMania match, like not for a title, but it's like two guys. There's a reason why they're feuding. Two top guys, makes sense, and it's a perfect match that you don't need a title around.
Yeah, playing off history from 7 years ago as well. So, man, no, I totally agree. It definitely feels like a match that you would have seen on a WrestleMania. Like, it feels like a WrestleMania 21 type match where, like, you build off the history. Not that it's Shawn and Kurt by any means, but I think this can be a really fun match, and I think the feud so far has been great. It's a great use of Rollins. Edge has been getting loud reactions every single week, so I thought this was great. You mentioned Mysterio, the Mysterio tag team, Rey and Dominic knocking off Ziggler and Rude on the show. Match went all of a couple of minutes. The Mysterios won following. I mean, the Usos distracted the Mysterios, and they still won anyway, which means Rude and Ziggler are a bunch of fucking losers. But what were your thoughts on this? Again, it only went a couple of minutes, so there really wasn't much to it.
Fine for what it was. It was what it needed to be. Mysterios needed to win going to SummerSlam. Nothing crazy, nothing great.
Yeah, no, it was kind of what it was. Served the purpose. Gave the Mysterios a win before SummerSlam. Again, like I said, not much more to say about it than that. Kevin Owens and Baron Corbin. We had Corbin out there begging for money. Owens said, no. If you face me right now and I beat you, you can't beg anymore. But if I lose to you, I owe you like $1,000 or $100,000 or whatever it was. Obviously, Owens wins. Corbin can't beg anymore. I've loved this whole Baron Corbin character. I think this is probably the most invested I've been in Baron Corbin since NXT, which is saying something, and that's a long time. So your thoughts on this whole segment, Mr. Marceau? And we haven't really talked about the broke Baron Corbin character because it's a SmackDown thing. We don't really talk about SmackDown all that often. But what have been your thoughts on the whole Baron Corbin character? I'm curious.
No, I think it's been great. I think he's done well in the role. He looks like a bomb.
Uh-oh, did we lose you, Mr. Marceau? Oh, there we go. Okay, never mind.
Am I here?
No, yeah, I can hear you. You're good. Sorry, yeah, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I think he's great. I think he's played the character well. He plays like the broken down bum well, and I think, like you said, besides the NXT stuff when he was beating guys in like 10 seconds, it's the most interested I've been in him in a while.
Yeah, I think he's been doing great with the character. Like you said, he's really dedicated to it, too, with the look and the hair and the beard and everything else, the fucking clothes. I think it's amazing, and I don't know if he's more of a character-type wrestler, because I thought the King shit was terrible. The Constable stuff was terrible. This is the first character he's done in a while that I've actually been like, oh, wow, this is, like, interesting. I thought this was good. Do you think this could end with an Owens and Corbin tag team? Because I don't know where they're going next with Kevin Owens.
I was going to say, I feel like Owens is kind of just lost in the shuffle, and he's just kind of out there to be out there. Maybe, but I don't know. I feel like Owens, they just don't know what to do with the guy, unfortunately. He's kind of like, sometimes he's like in the main event, sometimes he's in the mid-card, sometimes he's not even on the show, so, I don't know. I'd rather see him and Zayn team up, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I was hoping for a him and Zayn tag team coming out of their feud, but we haven't seen Zayn a whole lot in the last couple of weeks. I don't know what they're doing with him next. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, when I talked to Owens last year, he kind of talked about this, but do you think they're just kind of killing time with him before he goes back to Raw, and it's rinse, wash, and repeat, where he gets drafted literally to the opposite show every single year?
I hope not. I just don't know what you do with him on Raw. Like, maybe face Sheamus, but I don't think he'll have the title that much longer, and then, I don't know, I like Owens, I just don't think I just don't think he's really what they want, and he just feels like he's a mid-card purgatory, unfortunately. And I don't know. I think he's, like, interesting. I like his character. I just feel like he's gone so many different ways lately that it just seems like the company just doesn't see him as the main focus, and that's what the booking's kind of shown.
Yeah, that and the fact they've turned him heel and face a bunch of times, and he's already faced pretty much every top guy on both shows. Roman, Rollins, Cesaro before. Bobby, I mean, maybe, but I don't know if Bobby's going to be champion by the time he goes back to Raw, so not 100% sure. If you're listening live right now, be sure to drop a like. I would appreciate it. Mr. Marceau joining us, if you guys are just tuning in now, for a Rampage SmackDown double review. Go back and check out our Rampage thoughts from earlier. A nice little treat for Mr. Marceau on Saturday morning. But we are almost done here as we wrap up, talking about the contract signing for the SmackDown Women's Championship at the end of SmackDown on Friday night. Sasha Banks attacking Bianca Belair after Carmella was brought out and Zelina Vega. I thought this was a really good segment. I think this is another feud on the SmackDown side. They've done a great job of building up. I think Banks is an absolute, she's such a natural heel. I think she plays the role really, really well. She's a great foil for Bianca, who's gotten over as the SmackDown Women's Champion. The mic work has been very good. Bianca's held her own. They're not booing her because they love Sasha. They're cheering Bianca even more than Sasha. So I thought this was great, and Banks kind of got the last word, kind of got the last laugh type of thing, holding the championship up high and choking Bianca out with her own braid, which was a great visual. To go off the air as we build towards SummerSlam in their match next weekend. So what were your thoughts on the closing segment of SmackDown with the contract signing with Bianca and Sasha?
I thought it was good. Like we've talked about, I think SmackDown's done a great job with their matches, like building them up, making them feel important, making them feel special. This is a WrestleMania rematch, but we haven't seen it since WrestleMania because Sasha was off TV for so long. Sasha, like you said, amazing heel. She's great. I mean, even if you love Sasha, she's so great to boo, and you just want to hate her. She's kind of like a bitch, and you're just like, oh. Like, she just plays that role perfectly, and I think they've done a great job with Bianca, like, making her she's not an underdog babyface, but she's like that she's that babyface that, like, is likable, but she can hold her own. Like, she fended off Zelina, Sasha, and Carmella to a point that, like, okay, like, she's a badass. Like, she can deal with her own, and obviously the numbers came and gets advantage of her, but I think she plays the part well. She's great. I love her look. I honestly give WWE a clap, a nice little with Bianca. I think they've done great with her, and I think Sasha as her cohort has been perfect. Like I said, I think she's the perfect heel, and Bianca has been really pushed as honestly a really likable babyface that hasn't been like shoved down her throat.
Yeah,
she just plays the part well, and like I said, I commend them because usually they trip over themselves and ruin these people before they get going. But I think Bianca's been handled extremely well, especially on SmackDown.
And she's been booked to win more often than not as champion. If you don't have your champions lose, they actually get over. What a fucking concept, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think her beating Sasha really helped her a lot. I mean,
it did,
going into WrestleMania, I think, yeah, like people liked her, but she still kind of was like that old EST character. She really hadn't gotten into her like kind of flow, and she really had that connection with the crowd. But since beating Sasha, like she won a lot of people over, and her character work's been great. She, like I said, she's a physical, good baby face. I mean, I think she can work well as a heel too. We've seen that in NXT. She kind of has like that Sasha kind of like bitchy character down well too. But the only as good as if you can go both ways. And if you're only really great as a heel, it can get old after a while. But if you can play both sides really well, I mean, that can end you off to a long, successful career. And I think Sasha's done that very well. I mean, she's a decent babyface. I think a lot of people love her as a heel. Like Charlotte. Charlotte's a heel. Like, she's always a heel to me, and same as Sasha. But I think Bianca's starting to really perfect the babyface, but I think she can get that bitchy heel going, too.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Bianca plays both roles really well, like you said, and Sasha can, like you said, she's a popular babyface. She does decent in the role, but she's just far more in her element as a heel. I think the best part about the show was the talking segments. I thought they did a great job building up, the Sasha-Bianca match. They built up the Edge and Rollins match. They built up Roman and Cena. This felt like an episode of Raw, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like SmackDown is usually more of the wrestling show, and Raw is more of like the talking, building promos up type of show. And we got that here on SmackDown, and they did what Raw should do, but better. And I thought they built up the three biggest matches for SmackDown next weekend. extraordinarily well, and we got some decent matches in between. Nothing overly amazing, and a lot of the matches were short. But I'm digging the Baron Corbin stuff. That's a highlight for me on SmackDown. They have a decent tag team division. They got a number of, at least over teams or teams that make sense. We got a new Intercontinental Champion. My only real nitpick with the show is that we didn't really get anything with the women beyond the contract signing. They need more women. We haven't seen Toni Storm in fucking weeks. We haven't seen, I guess Tegan was on the show last week, but that division is dead in the water. Give me more Shotzi, Tegan, and Toni. I mean, where the fuck have they been? At least show a video package or something, unless I missed it. But, aside from that, I thought this was a really good show by SmackDown standards.
No, I thought it was a good show. With the other women, I mean, I wish I saw more Toni. I saw people why Toni Storm? Why did them get a title shot last week? Why is Zelina Vega? I'm they want them to beat them right away. And they're baby faces. Why would they face Bianca? It doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah.
I think maybe next week, maybe if, Zelina and them try to team up on Bianca again, maybe Tegan and Shotzi would help her out. I think they were more kind of going towards the tag titles, and then obviously Natalia got hurt. So, I mean, I don't want to see them in Tamina every week. So, but video package would work. But I think maybe they're setting up next week. They think they're going to get the advantage on Bianca again, and maybe Tegan and Shotzi help out, and they can face Zelina and Carmella in the interim until Natalia's back, or maybe they have to drop the belts. But I think SmackDown's been great. Like I said, I think everything's pretty interesting. The mid-card could use some work. I feel like we have the same players as we usually always do. But tag team division has some good teams. Main event scene, I mean, it's fucking Roman Reigns, so it is what it is. He's fucking amazing right now. And, I mean, he's unworldly right now. And then the women's the women's division's not the greatest, and they really build them up. But I think Bianca's been great, and Sasha's back, and I think they brought up Tegan and Shotzi and Toni, who can be big-time players coming up. So hopefully they'll get trapped to the Rocks, and they'll just lose to Charlotte. So,
Oh, man.
So I thought it was a good show. I thought it was a great show for SmackDown. SmackDown 2 hours always helps, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it honestly blows my mind how it's written by the same company.
You watch this back-to-back with Raw on Monday. It's night and fucking day. It's just amazing. But it sounds like you still bleed blue, though.
Oh, always. I'll never turn on SmackDown. Only when there was Roman Reigns fighting the League of Nations every week. But besides that, always bleed blue.
That was the one period that we actually watched SmackDown together. I would go over to your place on campus and watch the show, and it was fucking abysmal. It's amazing how bad it was at that point. And that was the one. I mean, there's been a lot of other periods where SmackDown was dead in the water, but I don't think it was ever worse than it was in that one, 2015, 2014, when it was literally Raw Light, when Roman would beat, Wade Barrett on Monday, then beat all 4 members of League of Nations on Friday. It was fucking terrible. Tape 2, holy shit.
And then lose to Sheamus at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. He would win 4-1, but then lose 1-on-1 to Sheamus. Oh, God. Don't remind me of those days. But this is the closest that SmackDown has been to being consistently enjoyable, I would say, since 2016, when it was really killing it, following the brand split. And, they're kind of relying on some part-timers right now with Cena and Edge, but I think there's a lot of other compelling characters on the show to keep me engaged post-SummerSlam. So, thumbs up show. I thought it was a great night of wrestling between Rampage debut, which we talked about earlier for those that missed it, and SmackDown as well from last night. So, Friday night's looking like a great night for wrestling, Mr. Marceau, going forward.
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be a bright spot at the end of the week.
Definitely agree. Definitely compared to Raw as well on Mondays. But, Mr. Marceau, this has been a blast, brother. I got to let you go. But thanks for joining. As always, you're in the Twitter machine at RJ_Marceau. We talk about everything in the world of wrestling every single Thursday on WrestleRant Radio. That isn't SmackDown and Rampage. And we might have to do this again in the future. I love talking SmackDown and Rampage with you in in a condensed format.
I love it. It's great.
I look forward to the next time, Mr. Marceau. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch your ass down the road.
See you later.
See you, brother. All right, we're clear, Mr.